You probably know this feeling. You're in the middle of saying something or doing something, and something feels familiar. You have a sensation that I've either done this before or I've seen this before. And that's called deja vu. And today we're going to talk about a situation that seems like it's vaguely familiar. Is this deja vu? Let's talk about it. Thank you so much for joining my channel, Ask Lois the Relatable Therapist. My name is Lois Goodall, and this channel is all about positive relationships, promoting positive relationships, whether there are family relationships, friendships, work relationships, or any type of relationship, promoting them so they will be positive. And I get my inspiration from reality TV, what's happening on the news, or anything else that I think that's going to help me to help you have positive relationships. And the thing about watching the reality TV is that a lot of things that happen on reality TV, a lot of the scenarios, a lot of the issues, it mirrors what's going on in our daily life. So after I talk a little bit about the topic, then I talk about how it connects to real life. So stay tuned toward the middle of this video and you'll see how I connect this to what's happening to real life. Today we're going to talk about Married to Medicine. And I watched Married to Medicine yesterday, Season 10, episode 12. And we're going to talk about, but before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and read my disclaimer. So I finally put a disclaimer up there. So this video is protected under the Fair Use Act. And there's my disclaimer that everything that I talk about is alleged. So I was watching season 10, episode 12 on Married to Medicine yesterday. And on that season, the couples, they went to Hilton Head, which is in South Carolina, for their 10th year because they've been together for 10 years. And Jackie really wanted to go on this trip, but her husband, Curtis, he didn't want her to go. And so when they called her to say, hey, are you ready? Are you coming? And she was crying. She was crying on the phone because she really wanted to go. And I'm like, this sounds eerily familiar to me. Eerily familiar in the fact that the reason they didn't go is because Curtis didn't want to go. And let me go ahead and put up the people that we're talking about today. And so I titled this, Is Curtis Another Martell? Because here you have in the dark, well, in the brown, Martell, and you know Martell on Love and Marriage Huntsville, how him and Melody, they divorced because of his infidelity. And here we have Curtis on the other side in the red, and that's Jackie's husband. And so both of them, had committed, well, both of them were involved in a relationship outside of their marriage. But the reason why I said, is Curtis another Martell? Because in Love and Marriage Huntsville, it was all about him. It was all about him and how he felt. And he very rarely recognized Melody. And in this episode, it's all about Curtis. And the reason why he didn't want to go, because he didn't want people talking about the situation, not considering how Jackie felt, but it was all about him. And so I just want to look at some of the similarities that were in the two people, and Melody and Martell, and in Jackie and her husband, Curtis. So just like in Love and Marriage Huntsville, how Martell was looked up to. His friends, they looked up to him. They thought he was a perfect family man. I mean, he had a wife, he had kids, he was working, and everybody felt that he was doing good. And they said they looked up to him. And when they found out that he was involved in when he was involved in a relationship, everybody was shocked because they didn't see that coming. Same thing with Jackie's husband, Curtis. Everybody was shocked because they didn't see it coming. And the castmates even said things like, you know what, we looked at him as a role model. She works hard to keep up her reputation. Same thing with Melody. Both of these are successful women that are working. And the reason why both men stepped out, he didn't feel as important. Same thing with Martell. He felt Melody wasn't giving him enough attention. So both of these men are with successful women, and Curtis is with Jackie, and she's a doctor. So of course she's going to be spending a lot of time away from you. She's going to be in the emergency room. She's going to be delivering babies. She's going to be at her practice because she had a private practice. She had hours beyond her work hours because sometimes she had to do paperwork when she got home. She had to take calls. I mean, she is a physician. And so he was saying that he felt that she wasn't giving him enough attention. And so let's just stop and think. if she felt he wasn't giving her enough attention, would it be okay for her to step out? And the answer would be absolutely not. And so when I hear both of these men give their reasonings as I wasn't given enough attention, my thought is, well, why don't you do something else that you enjoy? Because as for Curtis, your job was an 8-hour day job. Why didn't you pick up something else to do? And see, let's talk a little bit about Jackie. Jackie, she was pregnant at one time early on in their marriage, and she had a miscarriage. After she had the miscarriage, she found out she had cancer. When she did a cancer treatment, she was infertile. She had even asked Curtis to let's adopt. He didn't want to adopt because he had a child already from a previous relationship. And so he was good. And he was like, if we have kids, it's going to mess up our relationship as it is now. So she didn't have a child. She didn't have a child. So all she had was her work. And so she put in a lot of hours. She built up a practice, and the type of working that she did allowed them to live the lifestyle that they lived. And when she said that he said I wasn't paying him enough attention, it's like, well, what else did he want? And again, if that was the issue, just because he spoke it out doesn't mean, okay, I told her she wasn't giving me enough attention, so it's okay for me to step out of the marriage. Did you consider counseling? Did you consider talking to someone? Well, his answer to having all this idle time was, I'm going to have a relationship because that's going to fix what's going on in our marriage. And of course, just like Melody, Jackie found out in social media. She saw pictures, and the woman was talking that this relationship wasn't just a one-time thing. It had lasted for a while. So just like Melody, she found out, I call it in the streets. She found out in the streets. Her husband didn't say, hey, you know what? I stepped out on you, and we need to try to make this work. No, she found out in the streets. And after she found out, then all of a sudden, that's when it, quote, stopped. And so then, just like Martell, he's bringing flowers. He's giving her things to so she could take him back. He's saying things like, you know what? I want my marriage. I want my family. I'm like, this sounds so eerily similar to Martell on Love and Marriage Huntsville. I'm just talking about the things that he's doing. It sounds the same. And then he says, what can we do to fix this? And I love how Jackie, just like Melody, she says, I need time. And so they separated. So they were separated for a while. And then Curtis comes back and says that, what, we need to figure this out. We need to figure this out. And she's like, you know what? How do you make things right when you've been humiliated? And he says, yeah, we've both been hurt. And I was like, wow, they've both been hurt. You went out there and you stepped out on her, but you're saying you're both hurt. Why are you hurt? Because I really didn't get the sense of why he was hurt. Because again, if you felt that she was working too much, did you go to a counselor? Did you say, we need to sit down, we need to figure this out? No, you went and had an affair, and now you're saying we're both hurt. I think they're both hurt because now people know what he did, and they're not looking at him like this. They're not looking at him the same. Just like Martell, he wanted to, let's not talk about this anymore. And he wanted her to just move on with it. So if you're enjoying this, I just want to take a pause out. If you're enjoying this, go ahead and subscribe and like and share this video across platforms. Share this video with your friends. It's all about promoting positive relationships. Just like Martell, he didn't want to be called a cheater. Curtis didn't want to be called a cheater. He doesn't want to talk about it. When people bring it up or they say something about it, he wants to kind of sweep it under the rug. And just like Martell, he blamed it on Jet. Well, she was working a lot. Both of them don't want to take accountability. And if they do some kind of way resemble that they're taking responsibility, it's not really for the cheating, but it's for something else, something that's similar to it. And so when I said that, again, that is Curtis like Martell, I'm looking at how selfish he is. How selfish. He didn't want Jackie to go on the trip, knowing that she wanted to go to be with her girlfriends. And this is the part that even the castmates said that, that happened 7 years ago. That happened 7 years ago. And they really, in 2017, they really didn't talk about it. Yeah, they talked about it a little bit on the reunion and here and there, but they really did not talk about it. And so for him to think that, oh, they're going to really talk about this while we're on the retreat, that was kind of mind-boggling to me. I mean, that was kind of curious to me that why would he think that? I was thinking maybe he doesn't want to go to Hilton Head because maybe he has feelings about how he felt about the woman. Maybe he's going to relive some things because Jackie clearly has moved on. She's accepted him back. She's not talking about it. They made amends. They went through a couple of seasons where she had to really find out, did she want to be in the marriage? She thought about it. She processed it. She forgave him. They even moved to a different house and they moved on. But for him to say that, I think people are going to bring it up, it lets me know that maybe he hasn't let it go. Maybe he's still there thinking about how this is going to impact her, not her, how it's going to impact him. Because again, he never said, Jackie, you know what, how do you feel about this? Do you think it's going to bring up issues with you? It was all about how it's going to affect me. And then he said how it's going to affect our relationship. And she's like, well, I'm okay with it. I don't think our friends are going to do that. But he insists that's what it is. And so to me, it was like, that was a little selfish. And even when he finally decided to go on the trip, and he said, I thought that, it was kind of selfish of me not going because I was thinking about me. But even on the trip, he didn't want anybody to say anything about it. How are you going to go on a marriage retreat with couples and not talk about things in the relationship? I mean, that's what happens. Even on reality TV, he knows they're on reality TV because these are some of the things that they talk about is what's going on in their life. I didn't understand why he didn't want to go, saying that, I don't want us to be the focus. They're never the focus. Jackie in this group has cemented herself as someone that is not a troublemaker. She's not a heavenly. She's not a troublemaker. She's someone who likes to bring people together. She's very respected in this group. So they would never have looked at her or even brought it up just to hurt her. The things I was looking at is the differences in what happened. When Jackie's husband stepped out on her, she got so much criticism from social media. I mean, people were saying, you should have been taking care of your husband. Had you been there from him, he wouldn't have stepped out. And that was a stark contrast to Melody, how women got so upset at Martell and they're still upset at him. 3 years later, they're still upset at him. And I was thinking, I wonder if it's because Martell got a baby while he was out there. That's something that women do not forget. It's like, if you have a baby out there, you can forget it because the baby's going to be a constant reminder. And two, Melody had children. And so Jackie doesn't have any kids, and Curtis, he didn't get the woman pregnant. But I was also wondering, and this might be another YouTube video, is it because of Jackie's status? Because she's a doctor. And maybe people looked at Melody like she was so relatable because a lot of people could relate to her. She was what they call now being a boss, and she was building her own businesses. Well, Jackie was cemented into her job. She's making, 6, 7, 8 figures. I mean, she's up there. Doctors, they're making a lot of money. So maybe people didn't feel as sorry. It seems like people didn't feel as sorry for her as they did Melody. And I wonder if some of you, if you just let's talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about that. Why do you think people felt more compassion for Melody than they felt for Jackie? Write it in the comments because I'm curious to see. For me, I think it's because of Jackie's status of being a doctor. And Melody may have been more relatable to where a lot of people are in their careers, or she's a mother, or they've been cheated on before. I don't know, but I would really like to know that. I put that question there and I'm like, that's something I really want to kind of ask of my YouTubers and kind of see, what do you guys think about that? But how does this connect to what's going on in your life? And so what I wanted to look at is like, if you've ever been involved in someone cheating on you or in a fidelity, I want you to kind of talk about the things, the rights that you have, because sometimes the person that has cheated on you, they feel like after they say they're sorry, you should just move on. But there are some rights and some things that you have a right to. And one of the things is that you have a right to not feel responsible for whatever that person is doing. Don't feel responsible, because in both of them, it's like, well, you should take some ownership, especially Martell. Melody, you should take some ownership. And Curtis, well, you were working too much. No, you have no responsibility in them stepping out. That was a choice that they made. That was a decision that they made. They could have made another decision. In season 5, when it happened to Jackie, she said because people were talking to her, she was thinking, maybe I am responsible. But absolutely not. You are not responsible for the decisions that your partner has made. Another thing is, don't feel that you have to move as quickly as your partner. They may want you to just move on, don't talk about it. You have a right to go down a path of healing that you feel that you need. Melody, she went down the path of healing. She did a song about it. She talked about it. She had mimosas with Melody. She talked about it. That's how she got past it. Same way with Jackie. Whatever she felt that she needed to do to get past it, They had a right to do that. And you have a right to whatever your healing journey looks like. That's what your healing journey looks like. No one can tell you what to do and what not to do. The next thing, you have a right to acknowledge your emotions. You have a right to acknowledge how you feel. Some days you're going to feel up here, some days you're going to feel down there. And I'm not just talking about this from a therapist, I'm talking because I've actually went through it. I went through, in my first relationship, I went through infidelity. So I know how this feels. So I'm not just talking because Jackie said one thing. She said, until you walk this walk, you don't know what you'll do. And she's absolutely right with that. Until you actually walk the walk and have to deal with infidelity, a lot of times you don't know what to do. And sometimes people just sit back and say, oh, I would do this and I would do that. You don't know what you would do until you actually walk through it. So that's one thing that Jackie said, that what Dr. Jackie said, that's absolutely right. You have a right to ask for what you want and what you need. If you say, I need for us to go to counseling to be able to move forward, you have a right to say that. And if your partner wants to move forward with you, they'll go ahead and acknowledge that. They won't say things like, well, I think we're good and I don't think we need counseling. They will do whatever is needed because this is about your healing. This is about your process. And then you can talk about what brought you to that point. A lot of times what happens is the one that is cheated on, they want to just keep talking about how this happened and how this happened. Before we can get to that, now you have to be healed. Now you have to be open to hearing that because you're not open to hearing that anymore because now you're hurt. And so you need to ask for what you need so your partner can go ahead and give you that. And then the last thing I want to say is to know that forgiveness, it's something that's going to happen at some point, if for no other reason for you, so you won't be so angry all the time, so your emotions won't be up there. But just because you forgive doesn't mean that everything is okay. It's just saying that you're willing to move forward, either move forward without that person or move forward with that person. But forgiveness doesn't mean that everything is okay and that you're okay with what everything has happened and that you're not going to remember it. You're going to put it out your mind. And yeah, there are some steps that need to be taken. But a lot of times when people say they forgive, sometimes the partners think that when you forgive, that means that you're okay with everything. No, you're not okay with everything. Is that I'm ready to move past it now and not allow it to keep consuming so much of my time. So if you are enjoying this, go ahead and subscribe. Subscribe, share, and like, because this channel is all about positive relationships, promoting positive relationships. And I know sometimes it may not look like it when I'm talking about what has happened, especially with reality TV, but I'm breaking it down because this is what happens in our lives. So many people have dealt with infidelity, and it's like, well, what do you do? And so, like I said, go ahead, subscribe to this channel. And here's another video that I have that's going to help you on that journey to having positive relationships.